Clippers looking for the lead. George to the rack, reverse layup. Oh my!
Nice look there, Paul George. Great job by the camp.
Can't let Marcus Morris Sr. get to the middle. Wow.
George showing off the handles, and then shows off that he made back in the mid-'80s from behind the backboard. I don't think
in a 104-81 loss. George feeling good, gets around his defender. Oh, he and his former Raptor teammate. Kuzma gets inside, blocked by for the Clippers, 29. George, oh, what a pretty George.
Two-man game with Zubac.
Calls his own number. Gets to the rim with a right hand. George, got it!
George. How about the handle? Cradles the ball to the rim.
Clippers have numbers if they push. To George, to the cup. Oh my!
By stepping up into the passing lane, and then this is a wind-up, throw it down.
More three-point shooting. It could happen. George, a step-away three. Another month or so with a suspension. Oh no, Paul George, make us proud. Bounces off the backboard. Oh!
They're saying defense to offense, Clipper fans. That's what you're going to see all year.
And save it to Patrick Patterson. There's George, last time in this arena, scored 46 points. Here in terms of points scored together, they've only gotten better. How about a turnover? Here comes Paul George. Oh my! He comes. First rebound. Throws it away. George gets it back with Oubre debated. He flushes it in. George, but he maintains the dribble. Creating space for threes.
Shot clock at 6. George, step back three. Bang! Clippers trying to hold on and take game one. These two teams getting after it. Paul George, corner three. That's good. George with a hand in his face. That's a three.
25% on the year. George stops on a dime, mid-range shot.
You say that, I mean, you got three guys that are motivated to really come out here and play well today.
The step away was to Marcus Morris. It didn't work out in July. It's worked out perfectly here in February, and the Clippers are stacked for a nice little run.
It over, he thought he was fouled. Paul George goes and finishes.
I like the idea of Harris staying aggressive, miss some shots, continue to compete.
Nice feed by Paul George.
Well, he comes off the pick and roll. He snakes it back, and then late, instead of shooting the step back, he finds Zubac who has
George. 18 points a game in these playoffs. He'll dance and drive in the collision, and he gets the...
About the pity pat handle right here by PG-13. And the little pump fake gets Grant up in the air.
Now a 7-point game. Paul George banks it home. That paid off for the Clippers.
Oh my. This is a Timberwolves team that is playing free and has a ton of confidence. What a strong drive. 29 to play. George down the lane.
Bullies his way to the cup and leaves it.
50 points with 9.5 minutes to play in the second quarter. How about that?
But they really rely on him. Paul George.
Fire from anywhere, as you just seen.
He trimmed into single digits.
Paul George spots an entry to the rim. Hit hard. Counted enough.
Zubac in the middle. Morris, Beverly the pass to George, who has scored well. Leans inside.
So much pressure on the Nuggets defense. As soon as he catches the ball, he's in attack mode.
George drives, and it's foul.
The white shirts has his footing taken away. Clippers recover. George down the lane. The floater is good.
What speed you can get out in transition early for your team.
George cradles the ball. Down the lane. Down that.
the thing that Mark did differently on his floater as George goes to the rim and finishes.
George, runs through a pair of...
Look at Paul George right here comes down, snakes the pick and roll, slides through with that nice one.
His second playoff series. Hadn't scored a point in the playoffs until this year. George.
Mike, he was so well coached at SMU. They were an excellent team in his career there as Horford picks up his third.
Remember, the Clippers, they're missing two key players, two of their highest scores as well.
This is a spectacular basketball player.
And that's it.
Here's George.
Rebound. Zoo's line here, multitasking. 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Gets a screen assist on the previous possession. George, pump fake, then pulls it.
Connell may shoot more mid-range jump shots than anybody in the league.
He has gone 3 of 4 from 3. LeBron will meet him up high. Here's George. He's gone 5 of 9. That shot good.
To tie this ball game up. Nice little step back three here for PG-13.
Rotation stepped up to take the charge, and Morant went straight up and came straight down.
George for the lead. Got it!
And there you go again. Nice deflection right there.
And the
defensive team that looks to run it, they look like that team right now. Keep playing out of the timeout. And Paul
George and Leonard play catch late in the clock.
their decision making when they do so.
Paul George launches a three. Rattle.
Paul George is out there. He's only played 18 minutes. Swings a throw.
George for 3. Historically, he's always been a really good first quarter player, so you got to do a good job on him early on.
Drew Shamet will find George. This feels like George is trying to put together a monster.
The good coaches do. That's what the great point guards do, by looking off coaches sometimes and say, no, coach.
This year, that is exactly what you want him to do, especially early on in the clock, and that's exactly moves to his left.
You like this matchup if you Paul George.
Does he? The second foul for Denver in his fourth quarter. Paul George stops, fades, fires.
Third in the voting for MVP last year. But there's still people when you talk.
And a rough way to open up for Golden State. George on a ball fake out of the timeout. Fade away, book it.
Paul George with
Lou to Paul George, curling, catching. Off. Comes away with a deflection, the steal. And now George in attack mode in a transition. Step away three for him, it is good.
26 points, 9 rebounds for Harrell.
Expect only about 2 more minutes for these Clippers starters.
Everything about him, I mean, he plays with the correct mindset.
George a step away mid-range.
Rose is using that screen. Those screens from LaMarcus Aldridge very well. They're going one-on-one against Zubac and continues to win that battle.
natural bounce. Marcus Smart, oh, what a pass, and then a block.
Paul George now with 6 3-pointers. Here's Westbrook. Oh, he's
Clippers have taken care of that, and that's what's allowed them to open up this lead.
Doncic took it away. George. Oh, he
targeted a player like Marcus for the time we did. It allows you time to lay some groundwork, and so we're very fortunate to be able to apply.
Up on you.
Clippers by a dozen. Great speed in from McLaughlin. Better block.
Paul George finds room and the foul.
Yeah, it just goes right to his strong
goes with Donovan Mitchell. So for me, he needs to be an all-star.
Level Larceny, here's George. Oh, takes it to
the corner. He does a good job of positioning himself like that.
Paul George is alone for the breakaway. Goes up with the right hand and
George on a 2-on-1 took it the length.